think that worked. This was the first time I tried scheduling it, so it took me a minute to figure out how to make it actually go live. So, Cape to Cape is actually supposed to be pretty snaky from what I hear. It's got to be evening in Michigan, doesn't it? It's 9 a.m. out here. So I was actually going to be on a bus headed for the Cape to Cape right about now, but Jen actually convinced me to take the opportunity to go scuba diving tomorrow because it wasn't going to work afterwards. Originally, we thought, okay, after the Cape to Cape, I'd be back in Perth, but they didn't run any trips. So I ended up moving things around. So I am sitting on my thumbs today and trying to take care of a few other, make work sort of things. And since I tried this the other day and it was only on basically Australian time frame, thought I would try it while the US audience was awake. I have none of my diving gear with me. I'm just going to be in a rental rig, which is not my favorite. There's usually all sorts of issues with the mask and everything, but that's what you kind of have to do when you travel. The biggest bummer is I don't have my GoPro or anything. I actually would really like to get some sort of video from it, but they don't rent cameras. I asked would they lend me a GoPro or anything, and no. So hey, Mountain to Sea Trail. I looked at that one. It looked like it'd be promising if kind of hotel heavy. That was one of the options I looked at last year. Yes, I am currently in a hotel room in eastern Perth. I've been out in Australia for 35 days, 36 days, something like that, and I'll be here for another month or so. Yeah, I think we get kangaroo mice out in the desert out in California area. I did Cactus to Clouds years ago. It is way overrated. It's not actually that difficult as they go. For what it's worth, Telescope from Scotty's was a way cooler, big gain hike than Cactus to Clouds. Cactus to Clouds just has a fearsome reputation because people try it without any sort of prep. Fun day hike, but like I said, I actually liked Telescope a lot better. I went to some Chipotle-like place that had something approximating nachos, but it was pretty horrific. There was a Mexican food place over in Calamunda by the finish, but turned out they were not open when I went by. But we'll see. I'll have more time today since I'm now stuck sitting on my thumbs till tomorrow morning, which I don't do real well. Oh. I've actually been up for 5 hours already because I was literally shoving everything in my pack, getting ready to run out the door for a bus when Jen and I changed our plans. Honestly, the food here has been a little bit disappointing. I think mostly because I'm after hearty comfort food when I'm hiking, and I haven't been real good at finding that. I've had a couple of okay pizzas and things like that, but the burgers have been kind of So nothing that was super exciting. Probably the best I've had has been the big brekkie stuff, which is just like a pile of a bunch of things, most of which Jen would disapprove of because lots of meat. We did get Mexican food up in Canada once, and it became a running joke because it was like the highest reviewed, 5 stars, yada yada, up on Victoria Island, I think, Vancouver Island. And it basically seemed like Mexican food from somebody who had read a book about what Mexican food was supposed to be, but had never actually tried it. So yeah, I don't have high expectations out here. No idea what the water funk was. I talked to some other people that were also on the trail due to end-to-ends. They were actually commenting on the water at Beavis Shelter, not even the one I saw. Never heard back from the Bibbleman Foundation. I did find a reference online saying that shelter, Murray, had the worst tasting water on the bib, so I don't know. Hey, Nanook. Hey, Utah is great. I mean, I was going to be out in the Southwest hiking before I decided to come out here. Just fun to get into new places. That was actually, the area she was in was visible from when we were on the Green River. Neat area. Like I said, it's hard to go wrong in Utah, but I'm going to be in Utah come August sometime when I have to go finish the ADT. I looked at the Trans-Canadian Trail before. It seems like another one of those that is more just kind of advertising than anything else. You can't do it in a year. It's multimodal. It's got a bunch of different stuff going on. And I don't really want things where I have to dedicate multiple years because I already have too much to do and not enough time. They do actually eat kangaroo. I accidentally grabbed something that I thought was beef jerky, and when I tried it, this was like the first week I was out here, turned out it was really gamey kangaroo meat, and I could not force it down. Yeah, I will say I spent 2 months in Thailand when I was doing my dive master and loved that. Really good food, really spicy food, like painfully spicy. But yeah, it's been a little blander down here. I have been eating a fair amount of Indian food. They do have a lot of Indian food around here. Also, keep in mind, I have no idea what I'm doing around the towns here. I'm just kind of stopping at cafes and things when opportunities crop up, so maybe I'm just missing the good food. Hey, I'm actually the pro-Kansas person. I'm the one that keeps teasing Jen that we're going to be the first people to walk the entire border of Kansas. Dennis is all ready to do a rectangle of regret map and everything. Granted, I don't really want to go drink the questionable water for the entirety of that again, but the pack I'm using is the same one I've been in. ULA Catalyst Ultra. It's the same one that I worked up for the ADT, so it's got the patch on the back that shows the US. Let's see, the pack I had before that was actually the same pack, just an earlier revision. I really like them in general. The ULA Catalyst I find is big enough to hold the long food carries when I have to do 7 days, and it's waterproof. The folks that run ULA are also really nice. They do all their own sewing, stuff like that. I am going to dive tomorrow. I am booked. I am taking a Uber, well, probably the Chinese knockoff called Didi, across town, and then I will be diving out by Rottnest tomorrow. No GoPro though, so no video, sadly. Audiobooks, I'm kind of all over the place right now. I'm reading or listening to the sequel to the Expanse People's new sci-fi book. I think it's The Faith of Beasts. But I go through a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm listening 8+ hours a day. Audiobooks, podcasts, things like that. The lack of food wouldn't really put me off coming back to here. I've really enjoyed this. I would absolutely come back. It's more just timing if I'd come back. Bib has worked really well as early season warm up. I'm not really big into repeating trails, but it is the sort of thing that I would do again. I am excited to go do the eastern side, though that would probably be with Jen. I've talked about the PCT. Part of me would like to do it again because I'm sad I don't have videos. I have a handful of videos of just talking head in the tent when I was going through stuff. Problem I have is it's very unlikely for me to have as good of an experience. It's really iffy trying to make it through the entire PCT monument to monument these days due to climate change, fires, et cetera, et cetera. And it would cost me another year. So never say never, but there's just so many things out there I want to do. It's kind of hard to look at just burning an entire year going and doing that again. I don't know if vegetarian is a rare thing in Kansas. The reactions Jen was getting asking for vegetarian menus in Alabama, though, was kind of hilarious. She just about got the we don't like your sort round here sort of reaction. Quokcas are kind of like a cross between a rat and a mini kangaroo. Pikas and marmots are more kind of like hamster, guinea pig-ish that just kind of waddle around. I have listened to Project Hail Mary and also the Martian by the same guy. The competence porn space engineering thing is one of those genres that I really like. I was just listening to another called Exigency that is kind of Project Hail Mary by an author that's not quite as good. And Seven Eves is one of my all-time favorite books. Same reason. The first 2/3 of Seven Eves, anyway. Feet are doing okay. They were a little raw coming in here. I'm going to have a couple of days off of them. I'm going to douse them in salt water, so hopefully I don't undo all my calluses, but we'll see. I don't fully disconnect. I end up basically keeping track of the news through podcasts. I will say that when I'm out of contact for a few days, whenever I turn the phone back on, I am kind of like looking at it like, oh God, what now? Latest on the Yukon trip is it is all a go. As soon as I fly back from here, I'm actually going to meet Jen for a weekend in the Sierra and then drive out to Colorado, and that kicks off the start of Yukon season. Well, I think I got a podcast for the Trek guys that I'm going to do first, but yeah, Yukon's fully on, same plan as last year. Is the Bicentennial the one that goes east-west? I had looked at one, but you couldn't really do it when walking. You had to have a bike or like a camel or something. I do have a list of a bunch of trails on the east side I'd like to do: Tasmania, Hazen, a bunch of others. I basically just decided, well, I wanted to do the bib, so do whatever I could over here. So I'm cleaning out all the ones here. I actually wish that there was more to do, though, because it looks like I'm going to end up having to yo-yo the Cape to Cape just because I need to save money and not be in town like this. Probably wouldn't hike to Everest Base Camp just because I don't like consolidated campsites and guides. You know, I'm more of like a solo guy, so not a lot of interest. Also, the whole like, oh, look up at the cool famous mountain, but I'm down here thing, that would drive me nuts. I'd want to go up. Yeah, we ate in Kansas a couple of times. I don't remember anybody wigging out about the vegetarian thing, but maybe Jen and I had learned to softball it after the reaction people had in Alabama. Or Florida. Florida, people were acting like, oh no, no vegetables in restaurants. You just get meat. You want vegetables, go home and grow them. Again, I like chatting with people. I'm always stopping by the shelters to talk with people at the end of the day. I just don't like sleeping in close quarters. I mean, most people don't. Even the people that are more comfortable sleeping in the shelters will admit that they're loud. You have people snoring, you have doors banging, stuff like that. Also, keep in mind, Jen and I lived in a campground for 3 years off season when we had the van. And when we first went there, I was super happy. I'm like, yes, no more being inside, get to be outside. This is going to be great. And then you end up with so many people who show up, go, dude, we're in the outdoors. Then they like roll their windows down and they're blaring their speakers that I now get triggered anytime I'm in a campground. Loud people, music, generators running in tents, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, I would rather be off in the bush by myself sleeping. So my ideal is an area where I can go out, be social, and then come back and sleep in a closed room somewhere or off in the bush. Well, you're apparently in the enlightened area of Alabama. Or else we just went to the wrong restaurants. I don't even remember which section Jen was with me for. I think it was southern Alabama. Yeah, because she was around when I went through Montgomery, I think. Really, I had not heard that about the Asian carp. There was a good section of the Mississippi where I was convinced that I was going to be hit by a fish that was about that big because they were just leaping all over the place. At one point, I was in the front of the boat, Jen was in the back, and the fish actually leapt up between us. I remember hearing something, turning my head and making eye contact with this giant fish that's just up in the air like this. Yeah, I was kind of glad we didn't end up injured getting through there. I actually really want to go hike in Scotland. I have notes on a couple of the trails. They have that whole right to roam, right to camp thing, which makes it appealing. There is a possibility after the Hexatrek that I'm going to have an opening, and I'm just going to have to see about visa time. Because I'm going to Wales, so I'll have the UK visa, and then I go into the EU zone and have to try and finish the Hexatrek before that runs out. Things I don't have to worry about when I'm hiking in the US. Hey, refried beans are not vegetarian in a lot of places. A lot of places put lard in them. I am going to finish the AT August 19th or so. I should be back in Moab. Would have finished it last year. I ended up hospitalized for a while, so wasn't able to get back to it. I don't like leaving things unfinished. It took a lot for me to come off trail in Moab, and yeah, I wanted to get back and have that marked off. Coffee-wise, I don't know where I threw it, but coffee-wise, that's one of the things I brought in. I brought in those bean bags, and I brought in instant coffee because the instant coffee they have is more of the like Nescafe style. Coffee in the cafes has been good. It's all kind of like European style with espresso machines. Though the first time I ordered one, they give you basically a flat white, which is kind of like a latte except more coffee than milk. And I've actually liked those well enough, but it was a bit of an adjustment. Jen would really, really like it. There's a bunch of places that I would love to go and hike. Again, the trick is finding places that are, you know, reasonably affordable and I can get to with my US visa restrictions. Things that are open during the time of year when I'm available. You know, Te Aurora isn't going to work because I'm teaching the wilderness class. Until I get out of that, you know, that wouldn't work. And then it's the camping situation. I don't like hut to hut. I don't like the enforced campsites. The reason I came out here was I knew from others that, you know, the campsites, that you could bush camp if with some care. Overall, the coffee's been pretty good. Like I said, the instant coffee all looks a little but the actual coffee from cafes I've appreciated. And you can get it everywhere. I think I had, I don't know, like five or 6 days where I was able to get coffee along the trail. Yeah, I really miss the Mississippi River. That was such a fun trip. If I only had one opportunity to repeat a trip, that is the one that I would do. Oop. Yeah, the smoky shelters. I was trying to play nice national park and all that, but it just really rubbed me wrong. I did get to hang out with Professor Carl for a while and chat with him, which was kind of fun because we knew each other through social media but had never met, and then he was just randomly in that first one. But I just don't recharge at all sleeping in a shelter, and I'm not one of those people that feels the need to stay in the shelter for like safety or comfort reasons. Hey, I haven't even tried Mexican food out here. For all I know, it's reasonable. I have low standards when it comes to Mexican food, per all my friends in SoCal. There is a lot of Indian food, like I said. It just seems like things are kind of expensive for the quality, but that's that way in a lot of places. Coffee shops, the coffee in particular, they've done really well. The breakfast burritos have been kind of. There's a Domino's pizza down the street, but it turns out it's not like the standard Domino's. They don't have like the garlic crust and all those things that probably harden your arteries just like looking at it. There is a bunch of stuff I want to do via bike tour. However, I need to get a kit together. I bought a bike 2 years ago. I was going to do some more stuff this last year. Ended up having to spend a bunch on like computer hardware equipment, and our budgeting is kind of a balancing act. Plus, then I was sick and everything, so going to have to hold off on assembling that bike kit. Also, I don't know if my knees and my butt will handle that. I did do bike centuries for a while, but I have generally struggled with bike seat comfort. North Country Trail, that is, let's see, it's 2006 this year. 2007 is Europe, and at least for the moment, my tentative plan is North Country Trail the following year, so 2028. It's kind of the last of the really big ones in the US. It's one that's not done that often, so, has a lot of appeal. The Yukon does have cities along the way. The first couple of weeks to Dawson is actually pretty easy. A lot of people do that. You can actually get a canoe rental, stop at Dawson, get a sourdough cocktail. From there are resupply points. We are kind of looking at a balancing act, kind of similar to coming out here. Maybe bring beans, coffee, the usual stuff. But we will be able to resupply a lot of stuff along the way. You would have to send me which beginner backpacking class you are talking about, which area and who the instructors are and things like that. I teach something called the Sierra Club Wilderness Travel Course. I highly recommend that. There is a lesser version of the course down in San Diego called Wilderness Basics that's not quite as involved as ours. I took a beginner backpacking course through Sierra Club years ago up in Long Beach. It was okay, but you're not going to get a ton out of it unless you're just really beginner. Approximate start date for the Yukon, I think we leave Seattle June 6th. We have a couple of days of driving, and I think we're paddling at the 8th or 9th. I'm on my phone for the live, so I can't look up my spreadsheets. And we are bringing a Starlink Mini with us, so hopefully every couple of days I'll be able to upload episodes. I'm hoping to keep the usual 4 or 5 days behind, but actually upload while I'm up there. Because it's really hard to keep up with all the work if I don't have the ability to, post it and see comments from people. Other national scenic trails beyond the North Country, pretty much all of them. I mean, the New England Trail, et cetera, et cetera. There are a couple on that list that are a little weird. The Natchez Trace Trail, for example. I've looked at doing because it's easy enough, but it's hundreds of miles on road, like 200 miles on road and 65 on trail. And you have to worry about dog attacks on the reservation. So at this point, like doing the National Scenic Trail 11 kind of isn't as big of an accomplishment in my eyes. I'm more looking for what looks interesting and what looks fun since coming out here. Hey, you're in Costa Mesa. You could technically come and take a wilderness travel course with us in January. We teach the Orange County section, which is up in like Tustin area. I have friends up in the Long Beach section. They're okay, but ours is better. Jen and I teach a group. The Kauai group is our group, so you can actually request and you would be in our group. But it is 10 weeks, January to March, and it's a lot more involved. It is a beginner class, though. Yeah, the problem with trying to adapt to biking is that cabin that we stay at, I really enjoy. It is in Ramona. Ramona is horrible for cycling. I tried, like, being out on the roads there, you are risking somebody running you over. And I don't have any way to get, like, to a good place to bike easily. Mississippi by the Cactus Blossoms doesn't ring a bell. I'll look it up if I remember. It's annoying not having a laptop so I can look stuff up. But yeah, I'm always a big fan of things that triggers memories from earlier trips. Florida Trail, Ohio, ADT in general. It's the U.S. is problematic in general, but East is difficult. How easy to get off trail in the Yukon? I mean, we have additional rescue insurance. We have the Garmin InReach if it's an emergency. There are boats so you can get somebody to take you back, and there are bush planes. So, you know, this isn't like we're going out into, you know, Siberia or anything. We will be more remote than the Mississippi, but, you know, it's the modern age here. The world is a lot smaller than it was 200 years ago. One accounts for ravenous grizzlies by having a partner who is smaller and slower, so that way if they come after us. Honestly, we've looked. All of the information we found, there's been a couple of the usual people where I got guns. That becomes an issue because, you know, Canada, international borders, etc. We'll probably have bear spray with us. It doesn't look like there have been any incidents from what we found on reliable sources. It depends on the time of year and all that, but basically they're just like, yeah, look where you set up camp. It's not even that big of an issue as far as like food storage. You know, the only problem with things that are like 73-mile loops is the amount of money it takes to get there usually makes it hard to justify. Like right now, I'm looking at doing the Cape to Cape here, and I'm only doing that because I came for the bib. I really need things that are at least a couple of weeks so I can kind of balance out travel time and travel costs. I do like, you know, doing things, but I'm based out of Southern California. Getting to Pennsylvania would be a big flight. And if I'm going to go all the way, I'd probably do like the Mid-State Trail, which is another one of those that I don't know a lot of people who have done it, which is always kind of appealing. My parents worry sometimes. I do carry that little InReach mini deal. You know, it's this little red thing that's about that big. So they do get a ping from me every night that basically says Matt's probably having a great time. So they know I'm okay. The last time I was actually overdue, I came out and Mom hadn't done anything. She's like, well, I just assumed you knew what you were doing, which isn't the best if that's the person that you're leaving your plans and expecting to call the Rangers with. But, you know, in general, there is a good amount of safety margin these days with all the various devices. I mean, I have an InReach I can use to call for help. I have a phone that I can use to call for help. I've been involved in like a dozen rescues of various sorts over the years. So they worry, but at this point they kind of figure I can manage. Yeah, you know, the funny thing with the wind is it would have actually been a lot worse a couple of years ago. The phones pretty aggressively filter out wind noise. It is kind of amazing how these phones can actually make things like workable. Even if the phone's jolting a little bit, like a lot of the shots I do would not have been usable a couple of years ago. I'm still surprised that the moose thing came out last year on the long trail. And yes, Jen should send me more videos from her hikes so I have things to edit. Japan is actually something that's been coming up more and more. I really like the idea of going out there to hike. I have to see, ideally it would need to be kind of a spring or fall US season for me, you know, like March to June timeframe, so I can work around other things. My thing is, again, like I wouldn't do a Camino sort of trail because I don't like staying in hostel bunks. I want things where at the very least I can get affordable rooms to myself. I have talked to a couple of people on this trail who had done some hiking in Japan who said that the tea houses often were pretty affordable, so we'll see. I haven't been to Japan other than, you know, connecting flights through, so there's a lot of appeal to doing something like that. I just don't want Camino level stuff, basically. Buckeye Trail, I've done a couple 100 miles out of it for the ADT. I do intend to go back and do the entire thing. It's just, again, when is there going to be time? Lots of things I want to do, and only so many seasons. Ice Age Trail, yes, I have looked at that also. I have notes on it. It was one of the ones I looked at last year, post-hospitalization. I forget why I discounted it then. It might have been the length. It's kind of one of those that's in my mid-range, like the Pennsylvania Mid-State Trail, where I'd like to do it at some point. It's not a major motivator, and it's when I have time. The big thing is I need something where I can do distance. Like, I want to be able to go out there and do a couple 100 miles walking across Japan. If you email me, my email address is on the end of all the videos, and I will happily take any planning info you can give me, because if I can figure out something workable in spring or fall, I will absolutely run out and do that whenever the opportunity arises. This is like the one piece of gear that has actually survived the all of the adventures. This was, I think, brand new around when I started the PCT. Thanks, Terry. Unfortunately, if I bought a GoPro here and all of the things, that would be kind of expensive and be another thing that I would have to, drag around. I was looking at like phone cases and other things. I was just emailing the dive operator going like, could I rent a GoPro, borrow a GoPro? Oh, well. Won't kill me to not have a video, but it is nice to be able to share it with Jen. Yeah, see, hut to hut is actually a negative for me because I associate hut to hut with having to camp in, close quarters, like all the campgrounds and everything back in SoCal. So when you say Norway is expensive, would it be expensive for me being on trail? Meaning, like I get a week's worth of food for $200 and I was able to live off that, and that's reasonable. Unless I end up spending extra time in hotels because I'm going to go, dive or something. Growing up, I was actually a wallflower. Nobody believes that about me these days because these days they're used to me talking way too much, but like I was the quiet kid that in a group context in school would always be like hiding near the door. So I joke that I'm just making up for lost time these days. Jen and I are pretty much as married as we need to be. We have had everything consolidated together since 2019 or so. Whenever she moved in and then we got rid of the inn and then moved out into the van and everything like that. Also on the introverted extroverted thing, I actually really like the hiking thing because it's generally really easy to talk to people. Like being in the hostel when I first arrived at Perth it was a neat spot, but I suck at being able to find people to talk to there. Versus when you're on trail, you walk up to a shelter, generally you've got interests in common with somebody and you can start chatting. No, we're not in the market for having kids. We got too much else we want to do. You kind of have to not be running amok all the time to do that sort of thing. It's funny how controversial shelters are. There's a good number of people that are like me and Super Dave there, and then there are the people that just absolutely only want to be in the shelters, don't want to have a tent, et cetera, et cetera. I've run into a couple of them out here. There is one more Jen video coming out in a couple of days from a weekend she did. I ended up doubling it up with one of my videos. The trick is she isn't naturally quite as prone to filming as I am, so she's gotten really, really so much better at doing it, but she doesn't naturally get all excited and go, oh, I'm going to make a video this weekend, even though she doesn't have to do any of the hard work. Okay, so Norway would be affordable-ish, I guess. Yeah, I thought Jen did a really good job in that Utah video. But like I said, it takes her, like, she needs effort to talk on camera. And like me, I was editing and I'm like, oh, I wish she'd shown a little more. I wonder, like, what else was she going through this day? What was the weather doing? And she doesn't think about that. She's just, oh, look, here's a flower. She was surprised that it came to 30 minutes worth of footage. I have actually never been to Europe, so they're pretty much all high on my list. I'd prefer to stay away from any of the active war zones. Probably not hiking through Iran or Ukraine anytime soon, you know. Shelters are okay when you're the only one in them, but then you're sitting there at night, relaxing, having a grand old time, watching your episode of American Dad, and then somebody shows up, and then, yeah. They cause me so much stress. I would rather be out in the bush where I don't have to worry about that. I have heard of the straight line thing, haven't really watched any videos. Other than keeping up with a couple of friends like Hermit, Boppet, etc., I don't generally watch other videos. I'm more, keep track of people through Instagram and things like that. If I'm going to sit down and watch a video, I'm going to watch, Ryan George or like Secret Galaxy or something like that. It is kind of entertaining. It reminds me of the straight line thing, joking around about doing a Bear Grylls style climbing weekend at one point where instead of like walking around boulders, you would have to like fling yourself dramatically over said boulder and then, drink your own pee. Yeah, I remember being at the Hilton shelter on the Florida Trail. Had it to myself. It was raining. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay. And then lights hit the shelter in the middle of the night. I was actually packing up and ready to go out and set up my tent in the rain because I didn't want to be, sleeping in the attic area with people, but they saw me and they camped outside. Audiobook I'm listening to right now is Faith of Beasts, which is by the Expanse guys. Though I move around to a couple of different ones. I also have the Spellmonger book I'm working through. The new Dungeon Crawler Carl is about to come out. I'm going to drop everything and switch to that as soon as that comes out. And there's been a couple others. I just listened to Delta V and Critical Mass, which were both pretty good. I've been spending a lot of time going back and forth with Google Gemini's AI about book recommendations and things. As far as going back to computer stuff, I do some little like one-off stuff, redid the website and everything when I was there during the off season. I keep up with tech advances that interest me. I just very much am a cynic after 20 years in the IT industry. So anything that stinks of CEO bullshit, I am kind of fascinated by the LLM tech that's coming out, and I've started listening to a whole bunch of podcasts about that and playing with it when I'm offline. But I don't know that I'd ever really go back, mostly because I would have to be in town full time. I'd have to put off more of this, and I'm really enjoying this. You never know how much time you have left, and going back and spending another 5 years of however much time I have being able to walk around and be healthy, just to work for people that end up, embezzling Social Security and all the other things I went through, not a lot of appeal. But yeah, I do kind of keep one ear to the ground on tech stuff, both reading news stories and podcasts and whatnot. Biggest difference, US versus Australia. I mean, mostly it's that the people are terrified of the other one. The Australians are all terrified of bears and the US healthcare system, and the US hikers are all terrified of the snakes out here. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. It's kind of like a lot of the gear is a little bit behind where things are in the U.S. Farrell and a couple others did have the kind of standard light-ish gear, but I'm seeing a lot more like full grain leather boots and other things. Some of that is just an easier trail. I did enjoy the Foothills Trail, though I actually found the Bartram to be the more enjoyable part of that. Like the foothill uh, waterfalls were cool, but the actual hiking, the Bartram, and the camping, I enjoyed more on the Bartram. Honestly, that should be one big trail. It should be called the Footram. I think I had a write up on my website I was trying to get done before I left. Time gap for the Cape to Cape. I'm hoping there won't be much, if any. Cape to Cape might turn into a yo-yo though, so they might get a little repetitive because unless I figure out something else to do here, I'm going to be walking south for 77 miles, going into town, resupplying, and walking back north because I can't afford to sit around in a hotel at Australian prices the entire time. You know, there were things that I really enjoyed about the IT industry, the problem solving, you know, getting thrown at a problem and getting to figure out new ways to fix it, stuff like that. But yeah, overall, the life quality just wasn't there over time. I read the original Hunger Game books, I think. I liked them okay. I was more of a Red Rising fan personally. I liked where it went. I have not read the Songbirds and Snakes. I did watch the pitch meeting for it. It did not seem like, you know, the movie version, something that really interested me. I think most people are terrified of the U.S. healthcare system. I need to have that song from South Park with Butters singing about navigating the U.S. healthcare system like queued up on my phone so I can play it when the topic comes up. My hiking earbuds are Apple AirPods. These are the Pro. Oh. These are the Pro 3s. I really like those. I had tried a bunch of cheaper options and probably spent a couple $100 trying to find like, you know, cheap non-Apple options, and then went with these. If these broke today, I would walk into a store and buy another pair. And the 3s are nice because they actually will last for most of the day. Customs was not really an issue coming here. All you have to do is apply on your phone, and I forget how long they gave me, but it was longer than the 60 days I needed. I think you just get 90 days, like at the snap of a finger or something. You know, you say you're coming for a vacation, and it's no big deal. How I cut toenails, I have a attachment on my pocket knife now. Australian prices are a little higher than the US. In general, it seems like. I also don't know. I'm in like the kind of vacation-y, more remote western end, so it could just be the small towns and everything. You got to remember the currency conversion is different, so I think, and I'm here on holidays and other things, so my general feeling is that it's a little more expensive here than what I would expect in the U.S. in like non-Colorado areas. But again, you're up in like the Colorado ski areas, you're going to pay a lot for hotels, so it just varies. Favorite programming language? I worked on so many things. I mean, I spent 5 years working on Delphi, of all things. I've done VB, I've done a lot. Probably C#. I was always a big Microsoft Visual Studio sort of person. Spent a lot of time doing Java, but plus that comes from a company that's not quite Adobe, but it's right up there with Adobe. Yeah, I have benefits through Jen's job. Yeah, Australia being the same size as the U.S. is kind of interesting. These days, since I've walked across the U.S., you know, this way, that way, I basically superimpose whatever I'm hiking across the U.S. just to get a feel for how big it is. Actually, you know, my favorite current programming language is Claude Code. I was having so much fun using the new tools to be able to like quickly develop things. Takes all the grunt work off. I don't snow ski. I have knees that have a tendency to hyperextend, and the couple of times I've tried skiing, it has always gone bad. So running and skiing are two things that I just can't do, sadly. Which really sucks, because guess what all my friends want to do during the winter? Not that I'm around that much during the winter anymore, but yeah. It is that and running are two of the things that I'm always looking at people and going, oh, I wish I could do that. No, I've not seen some random video about crows eating ticks, but yeah, wouldn't surprise me. The blister thing is hard. I had really bad issues with blisters for, you know, my first however many years of hiking. I would literally go out on a Saturday, get blisters doing like a 7-mile hike, pop the blisters, tape the blisters, go out on Sunday and get more blisters. The thing that worked better for me was actually the lighter shoes that are more breathable. You know, there's a reason why Ultra Lone Peaks and the equivalent have kind of taken over the outdoors. There is a certain amount of getting out more and toughening out your feet by just being out, but also having leather waterproof boots that'll actually breathe and keep your feet dry does a lot for me. When I'm planning a trip from scratch, it is usually a combination of Gaia, Caltopo, and Far Out, depending where the trail information is. Far Out's the primary source if, you know, it exists. Onyx and the others I have tried. Personally, I have some issues with the people behind Gaia and some of their choices, but overall that's the best app out there. And then PC-wise, when I'm on my laptop, I usually always have a window open with Caltopo. And when we teach map and compass navigation, that's what we use. The app doesn't work as well for the longer things I do, but in general, if it's just one tool, Caltopo. Wilderness class on YouTube, not really my thing. We had to teach one class over Zoom on the wilderness class, and I hated it. Jen and I both said we would have like quit if we had to do that. It's part of it is just kind of things aren't as interactive. I really like being able to talk to people, and the other is a lot of the wilderness stuff is very personalized. I really don't like the kind of people who they go out, they do like one hike, and then they try and like teach this is the way all this has to work. You know, it's more customized to what people are aiming to do, and I get to do that through the wilderness class. Also, I'm just really not that big of a fan of how I come off when I'm having to like think through and do an actual topic. I'm more like videoing when I'm off the cuff. I don't think the Yukon paddle is going to be that dangerous. I mean, danger is all relative, but you know, it's not rapids, it's a known route, it's like anything else. It's going to be a little more remote than our usual stuff, but I don't know. I'm guessing one of the scuba boats off, like, you know, that tiny little rock island 300 miles off the coast of Mexico and a little shrimp boat might have been more dangerous. Editing the videos, I've been trying to get that down a little to where I do a single pass once I'm kind of adjusted. But it usually takes me probably closer to 2 hours all told, because I do the thumbnail and everything else. They used to take me longer because I was trying to trim them down more. Now I've kind of taken people's feedback to heart, and I kind of lean into talking a little more. Because if I start chopping things up more like what I did on the Eastern Continental Trail, you have to go through, make sure it holds up, etc. In general, probably the paddling trip, just because you don't have, the weight issues or the foot issues. I did have shoulder issues, if you remember, on the Mississippi, because you still have to get used to the motion. If there are rapids, that can be an issue. If you make bad choices, that can be an issue. But I do think the distance paddling trips are probably a little bit easier. Go down and do like the Swanee or something, and it's easy. Plus, you can carry more food, so you don't have to resupply as often. I used ChatGPT for a while. When I was off trail, I had the $20 subscription to Claude, and that ended up being my favorite. At the moment, I'm mostly using Gemini on my phone because it works well for certain things. It seems like there's the Frontier Labs, which is basically, ChatGPT, Claude, and Facebook, and they're all kind of jumping over each other, increasing or improving, which is kind of cool because that you can see how quickly things are improving. I was highly amused by those early AI images where you'd get like extra fingers and things, and you'd have to tell it, don't add in human anatomy. But they've actually gotten kind of scary good if you see the latest ChatGPT image generations. Yeah, the water temperature will be colder in the Yukon, but you got to remember it's not like we're in open water. When we were up in the San Juans, when we did that loop years ago, if we had fallen into the water there, it would have been problematic because you couldn't get to shore quickly. We are not going to need dry suits. We are there during the summer, and you can always jump out of the boat and, go to the shore and warm up. Yeah, I know the 4K thing. I struggle with space as is. Part of my task yesterday and now today is trying to clean up my phone without dumping all of the footage I already have. The dive videos were 4K because those are shorter. I may see about trying to get whatever the next iPhone is in a 2 terabyte model, but 4K just takes so much to upload. It's not even data limits, it's just how long I have to sit there waiting for it to go up. It's hard to get the 1080s up at times. Oh hey, Fort Collins. My grandfather is up there. He used to live up the Poudre River and then moved down into Fort Collins. I think I have the ride back to Moab handled, but I do appreciate the offer. My parents actually were going to ferry me out there as an excuse to do a road trip. Peak bagging, I basically came in doing Sierra Club stuff, and the Sierra Club has a whole bunch of these peak lists. So they have one called the 100 Peak section, which is like 200 peaks around SoCal. Then there's the Sierra Peak section and the Desert Peak section. And me being kind of goal-oriented, I like going out and putting dots on a map. That's why if you look on my website, there's like 200 or 300 write-ups from old peak bagging websites, or for, peak bagging trips. And then I kind of found out about long-distance hiking, and I wanted to do that. I went to one of the PCT zero-day kickoffs years ago. It was whatever year they filmed that National Geographic documentary. If you could pan the camera, you'd actually see me sitting on the rock on one of their shots. It's a horrible documentary. Don't look it up. And yeah, I always liked the idea of doing the PCT, but I wasn't even able to do the JMT until 2013. And then I had to do it at like 24 miles a day because work wouldn't give me time off to do anything long like that. Until Jen convinced me after the latest work disaster, maybe take some time off, and yeah, went out, did the PCT, went, oh, that was cool. What if we kind of just really leaned into it and kept doing it? Yeah, I know the YouTube compression does some things to it. They still look okay to me, but I'm looking at them on the phone mostly. There's also a thing where the stabilizer when you see that kind of weird jolt, that's because I'm walking and it tries to even it out. I mean, it's good because without that, you would not believe how much the phone moves around. Every now and then when I accidentally leave it in cinematic mode, that's when you get the really jerky footage. So I'm appreciative that my phone will generally always take footage that's at least usable, even if it isn't pristine. But I agree, 4K footage would be nice. 4K and 60 FPS would be great, other than I would run out of space way too easy. We wear PFDs when necessary. So like when we're off in the ocean or we're away from shore. On the Mississippi, generally when we had them on, we weren't filming because it was, there was something going on and we had to pay attention and we had to haul to make it through a storm. So I remember some people yelling at us because they thought we were never wearing them. But, when you're 10 feet away from shore, there's an argument that you should always have them on, but we were also dealing with temperature and a bunch of other stuff. See, I have the paint the map thing by just looking at Google Photos because it shows a heat map of where all I've been. That's where that little thing, if you look on the new Masochist Hikes website, that map that says where all we've been, that's where that screenshot is from. Audiobooks are generally only when on trail. I have a Kindle. I haven't been reading on that for quite a while. When I'm in camp, I tend to watch TV shows on my phone. That's how I went through 12 Monkeys and a bunch of other stuff. Gives me a way to wind down, and it's different from the last 10, 12 hours I just spent listening to XYZ book. Yeah, the problem is they look fine on the small screen, but then you blow them up to like a big TV and it's like, oh man. Compare one of the like Palau videos, which are in 4K, to one of the hiking videos on a big screen, and you can tell the difference. And I mean, if you go back a couple of years, I think we only did 4K on the dive videos as late as Raja. I think the earlier Socorro videos are a lot rougher. I would not do a trail these days without a smartphone just because it is a replacement for so many other devices that I used to have to carry. The first time I did the John Muir Trail in 2013, I had, my Kindle with me, I had a separate GPS, I had this, that, and the other. And phones are just a lot more convenient. No permits for the Yukon trip. We have to do the usual Canadian entry thing, but that's okay unless Jen gets a DUI between now and then. We're on water, so it's kind of like driving generally. I call Jen Blondie because when she first started hanging out with me when I was leading weekend peak bagging trips, she giggled a lot and she had blonde hair because she was swimming a lot and it was kind of bleaching it in the sun. So because of her laughing and that, I just started referring to her as Blondie. And I'm really bad about sticking to any particular name, which is why I jump back and forth between Jen Taters and Blondie, because it's kind of whatever context I'm thinking of her in. We sold the Mississippi boat down in New Orleans. That was the plan because we don't have room to store it. Our storage locker is very small and very expensive and always increasing. So we are going to buy another boat basically at Whitehorse, and then we are going to sell or probably gift it to somebody once we get to Emmenok, because it doesn't make any sense to, cart it out of there. And it's not going to be as nice as our Kevlar boat from the Mississippi. This will be a big honking like plastic boat that we can slam around. I'm usually a large for most shirts. I think Jen's usually a small or medium, depending. The Starlink, we are bringing that on the Yukon. The problem is, so this is a standard piece of paper. The Starlink Mini is about this big, a little bigger maybe. It's not really something that you can throw on a backpack efficiently, and then you also have to power it with a battery and all that. I think in a couple of years, we're going to have satellite upload straight from the phone. I know T-Mobile and a couple others do that. Apple lets you text if you're in the US, Canada, or Japan. I do worry that we're not going to see any of the like bandwidth to be able to upload videos that way for quite a while. So yeah, we'll see. I would actually, if there was a option to upload straight from a phone, I would almost get a second device just to be able to do that. Because it's a real annoyance trying to upload straight from my phone most of the time. Hey, I have an iPhone 17 Pro Max, whatever the latest one is. It can record in really high, output, but keep in mind, I've got an hour of footage every day, and that adds up really quick. I've got a terabyte storage on my phone, and it is pretty much a constant struggle to always keep it where I have enough space. I'm probably going to have to upgrade to the 2 terabyte phone. Yes, I know if I went Android, there are like SD cards. The number of people I have helped where the SD card fails is massive. I do not trust those things for any sort of long-term storage. I ran into somebody who was doing something really cool, and he was actually heartbroken because all this stuff had happened. He had like a week of footage, and the SD card just died on him. Those things aren't real reliable. And also, I don't like recording on a GoPro or anything else. I don't really like the look of the 360 things for the YouTube videos because of how they warp. But it's just too much work to have to copy footage off to maintain this daily. Keep in mind, I'm working like 2-3 hours a day on the videos every day when I'm out here on top of whatever else is going on, if I'm like sick, tired, rain, etc. Do we expect to see many others on the Yukon? We'll probably see some, particularly in the early section. My understanding is Whitehorse to Dawson is pretty popular. You see a lot of people who don't seem like they are very experienced, just kind of like showing up, renting a boat and doing that. From there, I don't know. I think it'll probably be more kind of locals. Because they're going to be moving around a lot. I mean, even on the Mississippi, we didn't see that many people. And I expect that we're going to see less fellow paddlers. We only ran into maybe like half a dozen other paddlers, I think, on the Mississippi who were doing the same thing we were. Editing on the iPhone, there's a couple of things that are annoying. I do like it when I have my MacBook and I can use Final Cut, but it's also very efficient at doing what I need. In general, like there are a couple of bugs to iMovie that I really wish they would fix. There's a couple of kind of like quirks to it that I would kill to get adjusted. But for what it is, I have to say it works pretty well. And I don't really notice things looking funny on my phone screen. I was actually watching a movie on a TV the other day in a hotel room, and I couldn't tell why it kept looking funny to me, and I realized it's because I'm used to just watching everything on a little phone for most of the year. Our raw, unedited daily footage is basically just the same thing that goes out. Most of the time, all I'm doing is cutting down little sections and maybe cutting out small diatribes and things where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to put that online. But yeah, trying to upload a couple of gigs worth of raw footage just for like shit and giggles would not work. And it would be a lot more boring than what you're thinking. I mean, literally, you pretty much have all the raw footage on our average edits. Miss most about the US. A little easier to communicate with people. The accents here, when I'm talking to people, you can kind of see them having to think through the accents. And a few people who've had very strong Australian accents, it actually is a little hard to communicate. But in general, restaurants. I almost went to a Subway when I finished the trail the other day because I wanted, like a half gallon of iced tea and all the other things. And Australia doesn't do fountain drinks. It's all these little individual bottles and everything, which is fine. I mean, health-wise, that's better than people. I remember in Texas watching folks running around with those like 64-ounce big gulps drinking like straight Coke, and it's like, holy diabetes, Batman. But yeah, I do miss how easy it is to walk into a place and get like a satisfying trail meal. See, there's a lot of people that miss us by a couple of days. That's kind of the biggest bummer of having to post these so far behind. My ideal would be, you know, edit in the morning and just release them live, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, apparently there are 1 or 2 restaurants in Australia that do the kind of fountains, but yeah, they don't really have the free refills thing. For some reason, they cite like cost issues, which I don't get because my understanding is fountain drinks and whatnot are kind of a low cost thing in the US because it's just a little bit of syrup and like club soda. I have not really looked at India. I have not seen any trails there. There are, anytime you get into certain areas of the world, I do get worried about kind of the geopolitical situation. Same reason we haven't gone in diving in the Red Sea, for example. It was funny, we were on some other trip and we were talking about that with somebody who had just been to the Red Sea, which is a major diving destination. And we were asking them, oh yeah, like, were you safe there, etc.? Because there's always ships catching on fire and things. They're like, oh no, we felt safe. And then their partner broke in and went, remember our hotel got bombed 2 months after we left and they emailed us about it? And it's like, yeah, I think we'll stick to other places. Hey, I'm still amused and happy that people enjoy these videos at all. They're fun to make, but when I left Key West, I mean, there was literally like 24 subscribers on the channel or something, and it was mostly just I wanted to have something that I could look back on. And they are really good for that. When I was in the hospital last year, I was pulling up random videos just to remember when things didn't suck quite as much. Just wish I had them for the PCT. I would love to do more. I would love to do bike packing. Like I said, I did buy a Surly disc trucker bike 2 years ago. Cost has kept me from buying all the racks and being able to kind of experiment more in that direction. I've gone on some shorter stuff, but it's hard to ride around Ramona. And again, like you look at all the racks and all the other little stuff you have to get, and that's hundreds of bucks, which kind of adds up quick when you're trying to maintain the hiking lifestyle and everything else. But I would like to get into that. I would love to have a full kit for both me and Jen because there's things like going across the US that is very doable within her summer if we were on bikes. I biked a lot more than her. I did a bunch of bike centuries for a brief period around 2005. I would love to get back to it, but again, I'm not sure the seat and the knees mechanically would work out that well. We will be back to the eastern US at some point. We're probably going to go back and do the Swanee at some point over like Christmas, just because due to the health stuff, we're having to scale back some of our diving plans. And there are a bunch of other trails out there I would love to do. I still would love to do the entire Florida Trail with Jen at some point, but due to her work, she would have to be on sabbatical or something like that. Also, I would want it to be another year with a high water level because when the water came up to here on me, that's the top of her head. That would make a great thumbnail with her hat like floating on top of the water. Hey, if Arc'teryx wants to give me a bunch of their gear, I love their gear, but I don't think I have the skill set needed to actually like shill and do the like daily sponsor things. Not for like daily YouTube videos, and I have never figured out how to make off-trail videos on a topic that don't feel incredibly awkward and painful for me. I did try and reach out to like Nemo at some point because I do use a lot of their stuff and just never got a response. But I mean, come on, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of things. They want some pretty happy person that's going to take Instagram shots, not somebody dragging their crap through the bushes, getting it all smeared up and everything. That was one of the cool things about the ADT in the Mississippi. We passed close to so many people, and when I was tagging the location, we got a lot of new people finding the videos. That's one thing where I think the Mississippi will actually end up being a lot more popular for us than the Yukon. Because, you know, we never do super big numbers. But we did more on the ADT in the Mississippi than anything else. Yeah, that was kind of a rough thing when I was sick there for a while, especially when they started doing surgery just to kind of look around and try and see if anything was wrong because the scans weren't finding anything. Not the sort of thing you want to see. My understanding of the Trans-Canada Trail is it's like some of it's paddling, some of it's biking, some of it's walking. But again, it's not really a thing you can do in a single year due to the length. I know that people do like multi-year trips, but it seems like in a lot of cases they're doing it for the recognition. And that really doesn't appeal to me so much as like I'd rather go do a cool thing and then go to another area and do an even cooler thing rather than spend X years just trying to be, you know, the first person with a ponytail to have done XYZ. Hey, Santa Cruz. Jen really likes Los Padres up there. The next video from her that will come out in a couple of days, I think I tried to schedule it around Tuesday, is her going up, you know, a little higher towards Monterey. Last time I looked at the numbers, we were getting a bigger percentage of people from Australia. I can usually tell that new people are finding the videos because the comments start getting a little weirdly hostile. That's always been the thing. When we were going through Kansas and we were getting a ton of new people, we would get the weirdest, most hostile messages you could believe over people upset that I walked down this road instead of this road. And I'm like, this was the trail. I'm hiking. I'm not doing like a tour of your city. So yeah, I think last time I checked, it was over 10% from Australia versus it used to be, you know, like a percentage or two. We'll see. It did seem like my videos got passed around a fair amount. I have run into people who are like, oh yeah, you're that guy, because I think I'm the only American out here, and plus my shirt is somewhat identifiable. But we'll see. I don't think I'm going to become a real like internet sensation out here. I was looking, there are other videos from people doing the bib. They seem to be less of the daily variety and more of the kind of social media happy Instagram-y sort of thing. Farrell's videos are pretty close to what I do though. He doesn't edit them. He actually sends them to his wife and she posts them, it turns out. I don't know how he manages to do that, but I told that to Jen and she's like, yeah, no. Jen never edits anything. Any video you see, even if she shoots it, I'm the one that edits it together. I mean, this is just a store-bought Jolly gear. I agree. I mean, hey, cool patterns. I kind of forget that this looks that weird out here because I'm used to Jolly gears being fairly common along the U.S. hiking corridors. Yes, this is Matt coming to you from Sunday. The sun has indeed risen yet again. But for the record, even when I'm not in this shirt, I'm still getting weird looks and I can't figure what it is about me setting people off because I do have a smaller shirt. Oh, hey, Simone. We almost met each other. It was just a few hours off, I think, that one day. And yeah, I hear Farrell's famous. A lot of people seem to know about him from his Facebook posts. We were talking about the YouTube market out here being a little different. I think I actually got a boost because on the AT, people kind of passed stuff around more initially. Plus, I guess I was going through the Florida Trail when everything was going wrong and there was flooding and people couldn't start the ATs, so they were looking around. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a black box. You basically post the video and people see it or people don't. And there's not a lot you can do. Thumbnails help a little, but still. My hat was a custom-made thing. My parents had it embroidered for me when I was on the AT, and I kept joking. Because here I was doing this big, long 5,000-mile hike, but it's not like I was doing it that fast or anything. There's a lot more, tough, showy people going for this, that, and the other. I am decidedly okay-ish and seem to struggle with more issues than most of the people posted online. Well, I guess I do lean lazily on things when I'm crossing streets and whatnot, but when I'm walking through the store, I'm not talking. I don't know what. Yeah, I'm not sure why I keep getting the weird looks. Or maybe I'm just being paranoid. Oh yeah, and this hat, part of why I had to get a custom one is my noggin is gigantic. This is a stretch like XXL. And it was basically the only thing that would fit over my head. If you look at the early ECT videos, I had a Florida Trail hat on that basically was always sitting like that because I can't get hats to stay on my head. Frickin' German features. Canyonlands is really pretty. I mean, all of Utah is pretty. It's hard to go wrong anywhere in Utah, but yeah, I agree. I was really happy that she took that much video and gave me something to edit. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I don't really do graphic design. Obviously, this is just kind of hacked together. Any of the merch stuff I've seen, because we do it for the wilderness class, in order to get like quality shirts printed, like the AMP or the WTC shirts I have, you have to buy them and then like do fulfillment yourself. And yeah, we ain't that popular. Nobody wants our stuff, and it's way too much effort. Any of the stuff where here we'll print this and send it to somebody tends to be pretty low quality and doesn't hold up over time. Hey Cindy, I'm still bummed I wasn't able to get to see Dennis when I was making a complete cock-up of that connection from Vermont down into Georgia. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong at once. I think the bib, this is the quiet season for the bib, is my understanding. I mean, I think more people do it in springtime when the wildflowers are out. There were a lot of people I ran into that were doing just short bits. It's more end-to-end is a little rare. And yeah, looking at the shelter logs, it did strike me how many people in their 60s and 70s were out there doing the trail. Which is, it's encouraging. It is a trail very much set up to be accessible at that age. Yeah, I always kind of have the red here, no matter what, from like older skin damage. I do put a lot of sunscreen on, but there's only so much you can do. Hey, we do have that merch sticker thing through Sticker Mule. That's about the limit of what we can do, though. I think the controlled burns is just because bushfires are such a big issue here. There are signs at all of the shelters about what to do in the event of a bushfire. You are actually not allowed to be out on trail in the December time period because that's like the middle of their summer and it's dangerous. And looking at the burn areas, there's all that little scrub brush that they seem to burn off and just leave the bigger trees, presumably so the fires can't get as hot. The trees have seemed like they have been scorched the entire trail and they're still kicking. Older folks, when I started hiking with Sierra Club, there was a good contingent of, let's say, retirement age and older people that were out there. And a lot of them, all they did was hike, so they were stringy and they could like run you into the ground. There was this one guy that was in his 70s that was notorious for that. And you get some 20-something going, oh, I don't want to hike with Grandpa. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to have to worry about that because he's going to be leaving your ass in the dust. Battery pack wise, I'm using a U-Green 25K. I don't believe in the 10Ks that much, not with how big the phones are these days. So I carry the 25K U-Green, and then I do have a little 10K, which is my backup. This is the Anker. I've switched to ones that have the meters on them because I prefer that to the dots. They're a little more reliable. Really happy with the U-Green though. This Anker, I may have to switch to something else. It's barely a charge on my phone these days with how big the battery on the iPhone has gotten. Yeah, the stickers are fun, and they handle them all for us, so we don't have to mail them out because that was the big thing. Most of the options I looked at, it's like you have to buy a bunch of stickers and then send them yourself. And Jen's got a full-time job, and I'm never around. Yeah, prescribed burns are always kind of controversial. If they don't do them, you end up with super hot fires. I've seen areas in the Sierra where a fire burned after there hadn't been a burn, and it just killed all the trees. It got so hot, it looks like the surface of the moon at Trout Meadow. But on the other hand, sometimes they get out of control, hence why they stopped calling them controlled burns. So I see it both ways. They seem to be pretty on top of them here, at least from what I've seen. And I appreciate that they post about them instead of doing the Florida Trail thing where they just burn over the trail and they're like, oh, there's a National Scenic Trail with people over there? Oh, you shouldn't have been in there. I know two people who have run into burn lines while on the Florida Trail. There are water sources along the Alice Springs, Larapinta thing, and also along the Cape to Cape, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm getting one food drop because it's like a 10-day thing right in the middle. It's part of a service for, it includes the people that'll pick me up on the far end. So yeah, no water caches. I generally try and avoid trails that require water caches. The ADT required water caches, but there's somebody who will put them out for you at least. There's this really badass hiker called Buck 30. He's the hiker I want to be when I grow up, basically. And he's done stuff where he set out like 32 buried caches along the southern desert to get through it, and I just don't have the patience for doing that. And I can get Jen to bury the occasional bucket for me, like what I did on the Condor Trail, but I think 32 would be beyond her. Yep, ADT, I'm headed to do that as soon as we finish the Yukon. I expect to be down in Moab, I think around August 19th, and headed for San Francisco as fast as I can. Basically have to try and make it over the Sierra Nevada before Halloween and when winter storms block. Yeah, I'm kind of getting the impression the wildfire season is going to be bad this year. I've been getting Watch Duty, which is an app for Southern California that shows where all the fires are. And I keep getting notifications of new ones sprouting up around San Diego, where it thinks I live because of the rental cabin. Seems like no matter what, there's either too much water or too little water wherever I go. It is kind of a bummer because I know so many people that have tried so hard to do a monument to monument thing on the Pacific Crest Trail, and it's out of your control because of fires. For 2020 through 2023 or so, I think there wasn't any legitimate southbounders that were, monument to monument because the fire closures. So yeah, once I'm out of, it's Cape to Cape, Larapinta, Sierra Weekend with Jen over Memorial Day, then it's Yukon, then it's American Discovery Trail, then it's Mexico over Christmas, the Wilderness Class, and then Wales Coastal Path, and then Hexatrek next year. I don't know if the animals are friendly. They've mostly been shy, other than Donnelly River, where the kangaroos are so calm that you can pet them and feed them. I was actually hoping to see more animals. I have seen a handful of stuff. I ran into an echidna the other day on trail that was really cool, and the emus around Dwelling Up were neat. Yeah, the wildfires seem like they're getting worse and worse as the temperature is increasing. And it's not just the fires themselves, it's also the smoke. When we did the Mississippi, we were lost in the smoke cloud for just days, and it feels horrible. They tell you, oh yeah, try not to go outside or exert, and you're like, I'm outside, what can I do? I was forced off trail for like 3 days on the Pacific Crest Trail due to heavy fires up in Snoqualmie. No real major preparation for the bears. We are going to be on the river. They are less of an issue there. We're going to be careful with our food. We'll probably have grizzly spray, but beyond that, it's not really something you have to worry about. Huh, I don't think I've come across the Rackley's. The Caymans are one of those, there's a lot of these destinations which I hear about and I would like to see them all, but we only have so many slots open because of Jen's schedule. Basically, we can only do one big trip a year, and that's over Christmas. And it's always like, well, do we really want to commit to a full thing going there? Plus, we love Bonaire so much. We may end up going back to Bonaire, not next year, but the year after, potentially. But we'll see. There's another thing down in Mexico that some friends put us onto. That's like one of those adventure dive tours where we might get to snorkel with whales, which would be really cool. Oh, thanks, Steve. Like I said, I'm always kind of incredulous but happy when I hear people enjoy our videos so much. It's cool I get to go out and just kind of do the thing and make a video as I'm doing the thing versus having to, go out to specifically film things. I have met people who are doing that. They're literally not hiking, they're filming, and the hike is just the thing they're filming. And that would take too much of the enjoyment out of it for me. Yeah, any place you have grizzlies, you have bear spray, but that's not that big a deal. Yeah, the emus surprised me. I'd seen them up that close in Donnelly where they were everywhere, but it's kind of like, yeah, get out of the way, birds. I want to see the cute kangaroos for Jen. It was really cool to see them there, but they kept creeping so much closer to the point where I was wondering, like, am I going to have a problem? Because up close they look like, dinosaur cassowary sort of things. But I was really happy to have an animal encounter out there in camp. I really thought that it was a fire crew or something at first wandering around. I haven't heard of grizzly spray being forbidden anywhere. I think in the US, the areas where it's not allowed is just people trying to use it as a replacement for a gun or pepper spray or things like that. I've never heard of it not being allowed in a wilderness context. Glad you guys are enjoying the videos. Like I said, it brings us a lot of joy. I'm always kind of looking for little odd jobs and things during the off season, telling Jen, oh yeah, I feel like I should be doing something more like productive and try and bring in more money. She thinks that this ends up inspiring and affecting more people than her job, which I disagree. Her job has like a huge downstream effect. She's teaching kids and getting them into science and things. But we both really enjoy the kind of positive impact it has. Versus so many of the things I killed myself working on during my IT days, it was replaced 5 years later. So really glad I missed that, family Christmas to, try and fix somebody else's screw up during one of those projects in a basement. Yeah, I could not teach a video editing class because I'm not good at video editing. I'm really just slap shot when it comes to putting this stuff together. And all the kind of accepted YouTube techniques, I actually don't like those really highly edited videos. I find them distracting and TikTok-y, so yeah, that ain't gonna work. Maybe I could do like video pack shakedowns or something for a fee. Have not written a book. I have a lot of stuff I've written on my website. If you dig around, I have something I'm kind of playing with. I talked about it at the end of last year. But the problem is I have to, like, it takes so much time to be able to write, and I tend to be out on trail a lot. That was kind of the thought behind bringing the little Apple keyboard, that maybe I'd be able to write, and I have a little bit, but yeah, the problem is by the time I would catch up, I'm already on to the next thing. So we'll see. I enjoy writing, but I don't think real highly of my writing. It was basically just going to be something that covered the first 5 or so years of doing this, kind of like talking about all the trips in context and how everything fit together, wrapping up around the health scare last year and then getting back out to do the Vermont Long Trail. Hey, I've been with Jen long enough. I am very aware of how hard teachers work. I get really ticked off when they get beat up in the culture wars in the U.S. because you just see how much Jen and her coworkers care and how much effort they put into it all the time. She works harder than I did in IT, quite frankly. Yeah, I was hoping I would get aggressive kangaroo just because then I would get to see one up close, because I didn't, until Donnelly, I didn't get to, like, a real good view of them anywhere, but no, they've been pretty shy. Yeah, Curtis, I call that the Jupiter special because he's kind of notorious for it. Sets up the camera, goes back, and walks. When Jen and I were on the PCT, we were very much kind of not the biggest fan of YouTube in general at the time. But I remember sitting there having a snack, and we watched this couple set up a camera really carefully, walk by it a couple of times, check it, adjust the camera, walk by it again, check their social media feed later, and yeah, they're trying to make the flashy, like, TikTok-y type videos. Not my thing, takes me out of it every time. Rodents around the shelters, I didn't see any. I have not slept in the shelter, and the way I sleep with my food, I generally don't have rodent issues. I heard a couple of things moving around at night a couple of times, but probably wallabies. Some of the shelter notes do have people talking about possums and kangaroos and dugites and a bunch of other things, but generally that sort of thing is a bigger problem when you're staying in a shelter where there's been a lot of people, there's been a lot of little food waste. I don't think Jen hides the videos from her students. She said that she's talked about it, but she also doesn't go out of her way to show it. I mean, the way I tease her probably wouldn't be the best for, her maintaining order in the classroom. She's always trying to get me to come in and, like, visit one of her classes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I should be around teenagers, and I don't think you want me around your teenagers. Hey kids, go fund me and I'll tell you embarrassing stories about your teacher. Yeah. There's mice and there's rats in a lot of places, but it's one of my issues around consolidated campsites. I have camped in a lot of places. The only times I've had really bad issues has been where they try and jam everybody together. And in general, with how I deal with my food, I have not had rodent issues in my tents ever. I think once on the CDT, we had the tent chewed a little bit, and that was because Jen had left a packet of ramen seasoning in an outside pocket, and something chewed in from the outside, which is not something I ever do. My food is always inside my food bag, inside my pack, inside the tent, and I don't have issues. The totes, the little one generally holds the shelter log, and the big one is for food storage for the people that show up and don't have any way to store it. Seems like some people were using that, some people were hanging their packs, but if you're hanging your pack, the rodents are sometimes good at jumping over into things. Every time I have camped anywhere, I generally will put it in my pack. I'm convinced sleeping with your food, as long as you do it correctly and you don't leave it alone, is the best way. I did talk about that in that video from the Smokies last year. I know it is very controversial online, like you'll get people screaming at you. I point to that Skirka article where he talks about it. But I have seen enough firsthand failures of bear hangs that I don't believe that bear hangs are effective. And I think most of the issues around sleeping with it are when people leave their food unguarded. So when I say I have food in my tent, that means if I go out to dig a cat hole, I bring my food with me. It's never outside of the, arm's reach. But yeah, of all the bins I've seen, I haven't seen any that have been chewed into. So from seeing some of the groups out there, that seems like there's a good amount of people that are inexperienced and stuff's kind of all over. One of the people that was talking about having an issue with possums, like they literally had trash just like spread out in the shelter. They even admitted to it. So yeah. Yeah, glad you enjoyed the ADT. The ADT was a lot of fun. The way Jen and I talk about it, it was really memorable. We loved a lot of the people that we met along the way. Not something I'd be in a hurry to do again. Obviously, I want to finish it, but I'm not going to repeat it or anything. But it was a very unique experience, even the rough bits like Kansas. Walking into Dodge at midnight and out at 3 a.m. is one of those hiking memories that will stick with me to the bitter end. Yeah, black bears in particular are very food motivated. There is a hilarious video that I've shown in class before of a bear basically doing the cliffhanger Tyrolean traverse to get out to a hung food bag while some, I think they were Kiwis, were commenting on the thing. Bears are really cool. I love seeing them. Not really around camp, but they're cool creatures to observe from a distance. And it's really a shame when the ones around town become problematic because it's generally the fault of people, not the bears. But I have become more and more convinced over the last 10 years that bear hangs are just not an effective way to store food versus other options. So it's either bear canister or do something like sleeping with your food. For the record, pretty much all the Triple Crowners I have met all sleep with their food. They just don't like admitting that they do that because you get yelled at online or, the wrong people hear it. You're welcome to email me. The Utah timing, just keep in mind I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere. Jen won't be with me for the ADT. She will be with me for all of the Yukon. So the Yukon will basically be like the Mississippi, start, finish together. And then she goes back to school by the time I head for Utah in the ADT. The Missouri River we actually did look into. When you start doing the Mississippi, that's the one that crops up a lot. The problem is kind of similar to the Tay Aurora. It's one of those you hear about, but then you look closer and it kind of has a lot of the worst bits. The Missouri is somewhat notorious for the long lake sections, especially early on. And that was kind of the only part of the Mississippi that really sucked because you're not moving, you're working, etc. So we might end up doing it someday. I'm more excited about like the Ohio River and some of these other options that are out there. I do have a whole list where I'm trying to track, okay, where are the non-rapid navigable waterways in the U.S. that we could potentially do, because the Mississippi just blew us away. I mean, we loved that trip so much, and I didn't even know about it. I found out about it by accident from that Doing Miles post. I mean, not a lot of people. What sort of hygiene are you talking about? I mean, a lot of us that are out here a lot. I don't know if I should be making a statement that's that broad. I mean, a lot of it is you just kind of get used to being dirty. Instead of toilet paper, you use wipes, and you can kind of clean up a bit with that. But it's mostly just hand sanitizer and wipes for toilet paper out here, I would say. I did a drift dive in New Braunfels in Texas. If you look up our diving videos, there's one there. Best drift dive in Texas, which was not much. We were struggling to stay underwater. I just keep in mind when I'm talking about paddling, it needs to be one where there's distance involved. If it's shorter than, say, 5 days, we can't really justify the hassle of getting there, getting a boat and all that. We're really looking for distance. Yeah, kids and pets make things kind of hard to do. We were only able to switch to this lifestyle because we gave up our reef aquarium, which we really loved. That was the hardest thing about this whole transition. We had this 200-gallon, 6-foot reef aquarium that just dominated our place. But alas. And yeah, we have met a few people that were hiking with kids out on trail. I know there's been some very famous ones on social media that have gotten a lot of like coverage and everything. I will say, of the encounters I have had in person, a lot of times, particularly the teenagers, are not nearly as happy to be out there. There was one on the AZT where basically the teenager was appealing to us, acting like saying that, you know, their parents were forcing him to be out there. So I'm always kind of suspicious when I see the people like running around with a bunch of kids presenting things online, because it seems like you got to have a very particular kid to take them out doing that sort of thing. So yeah, Missouri River source to see maybe at some point. Though if I did that, I probably wouldn't want to stop at St. Louis. I'd want to go all the way down to Head of Passes again just to make it complete. More excited for the Ohio. And there's also the North Forest Canoe Trail, the Columbia River. I have a handful of others, and I'm always trying to collect more. Some of it, though, is people have heard of, oh, this person got a write-up in some backpacker magazine about XYZ River. And then you look into it, and it was more kind of like a make-work sort of thing where they were carrying the boat, or we want something that is doable. So no rapids, and we can camp along the way. Paddling, we don't mind. It's just, is it actually doable? Jen and I actually own sea kayaks. Well, kind of now. There was somebody in storage out in Southern California and have been for years. We bought them originally thinking maybe we could go out on the California coast and like camp, before I realized how much of a mess the coastal stuff is. And we used to lead these evening paddles sometimes after work. We call pizza paddles, where we'd go out in Newport Harbor and we'd paddle over, have pizza and beer, and then paddle back. They were a lot of fun, but they kept us out late at night and just ended up killing us. We've also done the San Juans up in Seattle area in rental sea kayaks. It was really cool. We did this big loop, got caught in a bit of a storm, ended up having to get plucked off an island. It's written up on the website if you look around. It was pre-video days. Let's see. Hike, dive, or paddle. Honestly, I like all of them, and I like more. I mean, I would love to be caving and doing a lot of other things that we've done in smaller doses more. Overall, if I had to pick, it would be hiking, just because that gets me out more, and that's what I enjoy, the kind of existing out here. If you dive, you spend a ton of money, and you get out on a boat like Palau, right? Well, Palau's a bad example because that boat was cursed because the vibes were in shambles due to that lady, but ladies. On like the Raja thing, you exist for kind of the middle 7 days where it's just you're in the middle of the adventure, moving around, seeing stuff. With hikes, you can do that a lot longer. I mean, my high score so far was being out on the Eastern Continental, which was 302 days. And that's what I'm always chasing. So yeah, if I had to do just one, it would be hiking, even though like the Mississippi is probably overall both the favorite trip of Jen and I. And we love diving, but you know, diving, you've got limited amounts of time you can be under there due to gas issues. I have never been to New Zealand. I have never been to Australia before this. Never got to travel much growing up. We were in California, our family was in Texas, so if we traveled, it was mostly back to see family. And when I was working in IT, I didn't have a ton of vacation time, and I was climbing mountains, so burned it all rather than getting to go do touristy stuff. It would be interesting to do some of the hikes in New Zealand, but like I said earlier, the reviews I have heard about the actual hiking of like the Te Aurora has it not super high on my list of things to do. I've actually never been to Fiji, though I was in a coffee shop talking to the guy behind the counter, and I think he was from Fiji and was talking about some sort of island out there. I would love to go do a through hike in Yap, since we didn't get to go see Yap when I was out in Palau with Jen. But you got to remember, again, it's expensive to get these places, and then some of them you have like disease, you have safety issues, etc. And a lot of them just don't have the infrastructure for doing a longer trail. So the cool thing about a lot of these things is you get out and okay, there is a trail, so you're not like bushwhacking straight through impassable areas. And there are places where you can resupply along the way, and there's transit options. So it's not like you can just start walking from a random point to another. Even on the ADT, which is probably the closest to walking from a random point to another, there was beta, so I knew that, oh, okay, the food is going to be 4 days ahead, stuff like this. You can build your own routes like that, but if you look at like Brett Tucker, who does these awesome routes, the Grand Enchantment Trail was his, Muggy on Rim, a couple others like that. He puts a ton of work over those, and they are adapted over time. It's not the sort of thing that you throw together when you have an extra day sitting around, hotel in Australia. But I am always looking for if there is anything that is doable in particularly spring, March to June, around the 500-mile mark, that I can travel to without breaking the bank and will allow me in with my U.S. passport. That is high on my list as a kind of preseason thing. Because I'm starting to run out of ones in the southwestern U.S. at this point. I like nachos. Jen also rolls her eyes very dramatically whenever I bring them up, so I think they end up getting talked about more. I like chips in general. Like I can't have chips in the house because I would eat them, that sort of thing. I would probably say I like coffee more than I like nachos, though. I do wish that I could find decent ones out here. I've tried a couple of times, and places that keep being closed, or they're out of nachos or things like that. Or they're crappy ones that don't have near enough cheese. Hawaii is really close to California. I have never been to Hawaii. Jen has. She's traveled around the U.S. more than I have as a kid. We did briefly price trying to relocate out there and, live on Hawaii for a while, and Jen could teach out there. And the cost, it was like a pay cut of half what she makes in California. Plus it was more expensive to live. I do want to go out there and dive. There are some hikes and other things. It is kind of like a very touristy, expensive area from what I understand. So we'll see. It's one of those where I would like to go diving, but I'd like to not burn the big Christmas trip. I'd rather use that for, liveaboards and the really cool big adventures, and then be able to knock off smaller things like, Utila, Fiji, et cetera, during Thanksgiving. And then Jen reminds me that we're surviving off of a teacher salary and we need to spread things out a little more. Jen's been a vegetarian, I don't know, 6-8 years, something like that. She wasn't initially. It's more of an ethical thing, because we were talking about that the other day, and if the lab-grown meat ever becomes a bigger thing, she would, switch back to eating meat. It's a ethical sustainability thing. Loves animals, it's, etc. And honestly, there's only a couple of things where the vegetarian option doesn't work for me. Like chicken tikka masala is far superior to any of the vegetarian Indian stuff, but outside of that, I mostly just go vegetarian with her. I had a dessert poutine up in Canada one time. You got to remember, when I was in Canada, things were a little weird due to one of the bigger COVID surges, so things were like shutting down all around me. Had to go through like a zombie quarantine thing to get into Prince Edward Island. It was all sorts of fun. I have had the Nescafe Classico and a bunch of others. I've tried, a ton of different things over the years. I will say most of the instant coffee I find to be too bitter. I don't know where my canister is, but the Starbucks has been the only thing that lasts long term for me. Oh yeah, there you go. So that was what I packed into Australia, which is good because they don't do any of the Via. I find Via the best of the instant coffees out there. I would love to do some more Canada stuff. I really enjoyed most of my time up in Canada outside of that weird conspiracy nut I ended up with in that small town. I don't have any on my super short-term list up there, but it's one of those where it's really low-key getting up there. Traditionally, it was more friendly. I kind of think maybe at the moment it wouldn't be due to the asshole stuff coming from our government, but it's like Oregon with an accent, you know, really easy to do everything up there. Yeah, we're going to buy a used canoe from an outfitter in Whitehorse and then sell it or give it away once we get to Emmenok. Because we have to fly from Emmenok back to Australia, or Anchorage, to get out of there. Yeah, the canisters are a little harder to manage. I do miss the little sticks in some ways, but I generate so much more trash. Plus, I can adjust it to make it a little stronger if I have whatever weird sulfur water was coming out of that one shelter. So I think I'm going to switch to those canisters full time. Jen's already laying stuff in for the Yukon, because once I get back, I basically have to take everything for the Yukon and for the American Discovery Trail out of storage, drive it with me all the way out to Colorado, drop it at my parents' with my vehicle, get another rental car, take just the paddle stuff, drive to Seattle. Jen flies into Seattle. I turn in the Colorado rental and get a different rental for driving from Seattle up to Whitehorse. And then Jen and I take off for Whitehorse, and we've got a couple of days to do 1,500 miles and see kind of the backwoods of Canada. The metal canister, the problem is if you get moisture in there, it's going to mess it all up. And also, the reason why it was in that little Ziploc is because I worry about the lid popping off when it's in my pack. The metal canister is a lot more convenient when I'm at home in a nice, clean, safe environment, but it does have some drawbacks out here. Plus, I go through a lot of it, so sometimes I have to carry 2 of the canisters, and they're kind of big. Those Dole packets were horrible. They're all in the trash over here. They just tasted vile. I could use them by putting like 1 packet between 2.5 liters of water. She got me some other sort of like Oxy something, not Oxycontin, drink mix that I'm using now. That's what this is. Honestly, if I'd known that it was so hard to get like Crystal Light and things, I would have just brought more of it with me when I came. The drink packets that I normally use, the Crystal Light, I had a big pile of them in a Ziploc from the East Coast Trail or the WTC stuff, whatever I'd done that I had with me, and I kind of assumed, oh, you know, electrolytes, you can get them everywhere. I have figured out that the Hydrolyte electrolyte packets, they're kind of like Noon. I have figured out where to get those, but they're these big tubes, and they're kind of the discs that dissolve. And they are heavy and bulky. So I have some of those for this next one, but the other thing I'm using is the packets. And the Hydrolyte packets that are like this don't taste near as well. It's weird. I know the US has kind of been over-marketed too when it comes to electrolytes. It's one of Jen's pet peeves about how electrolytes are kind of not needed in most cases. Keep in mind, like when I was walking across Kansas and everything, I was not chugging expensive electrolyte drinks. We were just eating salty snacks. We get enough salt in our diet that electrolytes aren't needed unless you're doing some sort of like extreme ultra race or something. So all I do is get flavoring, which helps me get the water down easier. But it's one of those conversations we always have at the wilderness class. Yeah, we'll grab some bear spray up in Whitehorse. Anytime you're in grizzly territory, you're supposed to have it with you. We'll probably throw that little round sail in just because we had so much fun with it on the Mississippi, but I don't know how usable it will be. The sugar-free drink mix that I prefer is the Crystal Light lemonade and fruit punch. Jen doesn't like it, but to me that works the best, and I put it in either a liter or a liter and a half. I have found a couple of other things here and there on the Australia Trail, but they're few and far between, and they're all really, really expensive. Let's see. So IQ Mix is the stuff she was able to order me. And then that tube is the Hydrolite. Problem is I have to use like 4 of the little discs for 1 water bottle. But yeah, bear spray pretty much anywhere where grizzlies exist, at least where they're common. Granted, for most of the hiking trail, that's just, Montana and part of Wyoming. For the record, Yellowstone was surprisingly not as nice hiking. Tetons are beautiful though. Yeah, those Crystal Light packets I really like. And if you ever get really vile water, let's say you find yourself in the area of Florida where all the water comes out of the tap, sulfury, or the tap water in Perth is somewhat notoriously bad. The peach iced tea is something that will actually, it's so much of a make you gag flavor that it covers almost any flavor in water. Fruit punch has been the one that I really have enjoyed though. But yeah, it's funny. I really didn't expect that I was going to have trouble getting drink mix of all things out here. But it was the same with sun gloves. I finally gave up and had Jen send me some Chinese bike gloves that would actually fit my hand because I could not find any there. You mean the vitamin C? I don't know what C plus T mixes are. I have tried whatever the Uber vitamin C things are at home. They're fine. It just seems like they're all trying to kind of be shystery as far as, here, it has 12,000% of your daily B12, when all you need is some sort of flavor. Yeah, see, some of the flavors I'm okay with. I don't know what it is about the Dole stuff because the Dole stuff had lemonade. I don't know, it's in the trash somewhere. But it just, it tasted bad. I have tried the emergency mix, I should say. I've never seen a C plus T mix. And watermelon flavor is one of those that works pretty well for me. That IQ stuff, it's peach, mango, blueberry, pomegranate, lemon, lime, and blood orange. It'll work. I do, like I said, I do like that Hydrolite lemonade stuff, but I think it's $20 for 2 tubes. Does it come with dehydrated honey? Because by the time you're having to add a second ingredient, yeah, that's too much work for me. Got to remember, most of the time I'm running into a store, grabbing a bunch of things, triaging it in a hotel room, and then I have to go. The trash bin in this room is just packed with all these boxes and things. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it, but honestly, if I came back out here knowing what I know now, I would just bring a whole bunch of Crystal Light, because those boxes are actually really cheap in the US. They come with 8 or 10 of the little packets. So those work pretty perfect for me. I got a bit lazy because I never even came close to running low on them in the US. Because I really just need something with some flavor, because I usually take, I have this, which is a liter, and then a 1.5 liter bottle. And I always chug that at a water source, so I need something that I can drink a lot of. Okay, I got a couple of things going on, so another 5 minutes or so, and I'm going to have to take off. I need to run down. There's an Apple store here and try and deal with a couple of things. I really like companies that do good warranties, but every now and then I have to argue with them because I tend to put more wear on things than most people. Night, Dennis. It is so weird being so off from everybody schedule-wise. I get to talk to Jen in my morning, which is her night, and her night, which is my morning. Or her morning night, yeah. It works out, but it will be good to get back and see her again in 3 more weeks, whatever it is. The trick now is just going to be how to kill time until I go to the Larapinta. The Cape-to-Cape transit situation is a little bit complicated. I can get down there, but I'm only going to have 4.5 hours of daylight left by the end of it. Yeah, Hank, glad you enjoyed these. It's fun to do interactive stuff and answer questions versus just being, talking to my phone endlessly and then having to listen to myself talk as I'm hiking. I'll maybe do one of these again. Jen and I did one years ago, and it was a lot of fun, but I often don't have reliable internet. The cabin is great, but drops off, so I can't do that. I ran into some sort of like Kalamunda store or something when I first got here, but mostly I've been trying to look at things in the little towns, not in Perth. Yeah, glad you guys were able to enjoy it. Now that I have it figured out, maybe I'll do these from time to time and can answer questions about stuff. Maybe even manage to do one when I've got Jen with me. But again, the hard part is internet access. You're not going to get Jen to do a live stream without me there. Anytime you see her on video, what you're not seeing is me making finger guns at her, forcing her on camera. She does really like all the happy comments, the sweet comments, so I can get her to do video footage now and then, but her recording 2 things that close together was very rare. I'm eternally trying to get her to just do like an update from her classroom or yoga studio or something. Okay, well, been nice chatting with everybody. Time to get back to work here. Hope you all have a good night.